We have come far with this story of the battling twins and the brothers of Esau and Jacob. A few weeks ago, we listened as their birth and tragic rivalry was prophesied, and as Jacob manipulated Esau out of his birthright and the blessing of his father, and his fleeing to another land to stay away from his brother's understandable anger. Then Jacob became the manipulated one around as he found family with his mother's brother, gained wives and servants and riches and children, lots of children. So then it becomes time to head home. And here he stands balking at this transition point to home, sending his everything away and finding himself in a place set apart. A place of encounter with all that is inside and around him. He is surely deeply troubled. His past is catching up with him, and he wrestles with anxiety and uncertainty, mentally as well as physically. It's a change he is undergoing. From the blessing grabber, the supplanter, the manipulator of the family, to an honest brother, hoping that he can do enough to apologize to his sibling. He is there to make amends. But first, he has to deal with this encounter ahead of him. And when we are in those places of discomfort, sometimes all we too can do is hang on. Sometimes we have to take stock of the experience of discomfort and name it so that we can understand how we are changed and what we are meant to do with this new identity of self. When we are in moments of change, will we let go of who we are at our core? Will we hang on to who and what we are? Will we let the experience change us? Jacob hung on, and as a result, he does not walk away unchanged. He comes out with a new name and a limp into the future, scarred by the struggle. As Tyla and I spoke about during Children's Moment this past week, the three of us attended our conference's intergenerational camp, just one part of Hartman Center Spirit Week, and it marks a new era for the outdoor ministries of our conference. A return to Hartman Center, but no longer a Penn Central property, as the guests, hosted by our new ownership. This new era of outdoor ministry means that we cannot assume that we are in charge. We find ways to listen for how change and development will come to a place treasured and well-remembered by many in our community, our conference. It won't be the same, but it will be magnificent. Camp was an annual activity for me as a kid, from about 3rd grade on. There was always a week away at camp in my summer plans. It was where Sam and I met, and where I came the closest to my vocational calling as a young person. There are memories I will always carry with me, and though they were not made at Hartman Center, they will be a part of what I feel and I hear when anyone says camp. Camp to me means using embroidery floss to make bracelets, countless bracelets. Tyler's even sporting a couple new ones today. We already put one into the mail for someone we couldn't finish before camp ended. And French braiding hair. As a counselor in training, probably a junior in high school, my cabin of 5th grade girls all decided they wanted to braid their hair before breakfast. But my co-counselor couldn't braid at all. So it was up to me to get every single girl, as soon as they woke up, to wet their hair, sit down in front of me, get braided, and I did it. We walked into breakfast, 12 girls grinning from ear to ear. And it might not have been a limp that I walked away from that experience with, but it certainly was a set of rather cramped up pointer fingers. Camp also means smoke in the eyes. and staring at glowing embers while stories are told around the fire, sometimes even late into the night. For Jacob, there alone on that stream bank, there was no light and warmth of the fire to keep him warm. Likely no singing of halle, halle, hallelujah. Not really any storytelling, but sitting in the near dark of the wilderness, watching the world gather darkness as a curtain. Pine trees surrounding you, opening the world up. In those starlight encounters, in the darkened hush of the animal kingdom heading to sleep, while the nocturnal night shift starts up, there is a space for something more. In that place, I, too, can understand wrestling. Wrestling with our inner demons, the parts of me that say I am not enough. Wrestling with our shame or failure, and holding it even more closely. In the dark, we might not be able to see that which we hold, but we can feel it all the more. And sometimes in that place when we feel so much more, life doesn't play fair. This is true of Jacob's story as much as our own. Homesickness was always hardest for me and for the campers I sat with in that beginning night darkness. By the time that sleep would take us into dreamland, the exhaustion from the day spent with that good fresh air would allow for sleep to come heavily. But it was that part before sleep, when in the darkness you couldn't see why you missed home, but you knew, you could hold on to, you could feel that hole made where someone, something, some pet or blanket should be. In that space, we too wrestle with angels. To prevail, though, we must be willing to hold on to that thought, that feeling, to allow it to morph and tussle so that we can make peace, so that we can delve deeper into the liminal space. The closer we get there to the veil between the realms, the closer we get to God, and in God to see those we will share that morning dew-filled world with as companions on this wide journey. In the darkness, it might not fight fair, the pain and traumas of life, when history might put our hips out of joint, but that doesn't mean the pain wins. Jacob wrestles with the unknown and is able to get the better of it. It is knowing that they are losing that changes the course of the battle. That's when they fought dirty. We can and will hold strong if we can hold fast to what is good. When we take command of our anxieties and our unknowns. In the camp dawn air, homesickness is driven away. Anxiety and sadness change their tune. It's no coincidence that Jacob is blessed in the morning, that he gets at least some part of an answer from his wrestling partner. When the dawn breaks, when birdsong fills the air again, change seems so much more possible. Strength is regained, ready for a new day of so much more to experience, so much more world to explore. And into that morning light, Jacob is also marked by change. With this name changed, with this renewal of covenant. And for the early Jewish communities who would have told this story to each other, an ancestor with a purpose. You will be called Israel, for you have struggled and prevailed. You have struggled and prevailed. That is the name to be proud of. At camp this week, there was no official name changes, but I do recall several camps over my life where the tradition of choosing a name marked that whole self-renewal and commitment needed to fully engage in that experience. When I was in high school, I counseled for an elementary outdoor school and named myself Phrase, F-R-A-I-Z-E. So it was like the French word for strawberry, which I took as a second language, but not that, because I needed to be slightly off. I'm sure you all figured that one out by now. When Sam counseled at a YMCA overnight camp, she was Skittles, colorful like the rainbow. The change of name allows us to be new people in a new place. And maybe the same is true for Jacob on that morning with his hip out of joint, bleary-eyed from the lack of sleep, with no more answers about what will happen when he meets his brother, and yet he is changed. The text doesn't claim his name change, though, until it moves on to the story of his youngest son. In this moment, when he is both Jacob of old and Israel yet to be claimed, he is quite literally in a moment of transition. In the experiences of another place that camp can bring, in the story of middle of the night wrestling with anxiety, the transitions of life become clear and present. What we know is that we will never walk away unchanged. The reason that camp is so special to me, the great excitement I feel introducing another generation to its specialness, is that in that space, I can grasp very firmly a connection to the earth on which I live, the community of humans, animals, plant life that sustains my daily striving, the cycles of my own existence. And in that space of connection, in that closeness to each other, the set apartness of ministry outdoors, God is so much closer for me. Prayer comes more easily. Faith renews with the cycle of day. I can see wrestling with God and angels as a lived experience because I can feel that spirit wrapping me up like a warm blanket in these places. No matter where we go, whether we are camp people or not, whether we have attended camp in one place or dozens, our 50th year or our first, camp is about experiential faith, a faith centered in nature, but intimately connected to human bonds, to a faith story older than any building, a people of change who through the years continue to change, to grow, to find new expressions of faith as a means of understanding life's struggle and the frustration of being human. So next year, the last week of July and into August, join Tyla and Sam and me and those from other churches near and far at the UCC neighbors that we have as we seek God together, as we find meaning in the making, as we wrestle with faith and come out changed, hopefully not actually limping, but even if we are, let us be church limping, hopping, leaping into the future. Jacob's story reminds us that life will not happen without struggle, but that genuine change is possible. So next time at Hartman Center, let us be Hummelstown UCC Outdoor Ministries, changed and growing. Amen.